Welcome back to this Modifying Doom 3 Editor series. In this episode 2 of our special 3-part mini-series on cinematics, we look at how to place characters, how to get them moving, and how to activate their various animations. We'll also look at how to fade our camera view in and out, how to execute a complex combination camera move, and finally we'll show how to create a spectacular circular dolly move. Please subscribe to our channel if you're enjoying this series. Otherwise, leave a comment or dislike, or share this video with friends. Clicking the notification button will send you alerts when we post new content. Otherwise, visit the channel Tom's World for a neighborly visit and for a complete list of all our videos. Ever wondered how video games are built? Then stick with us as we explore the fascinating world of level design in the Doom 3 editor. Before we go into looking at how to move our characters, what I thought I would do is just tie up a couple of loose ends from the last video, as well as show you one other useful tool that's really great for when you're making cinematics. So let's look at that tool first. I'm just going to open up my script here, and you'll notice the first thing is I really tidied up everything and I started putting in these headings. And when you start to get script that's getting long, I mean, I'm not going to say this is long compared to some script I've seen, but as it gets longer, I found by putting in these little headings, it kind of prefaces the little bits of code here and lets me know what this all does. So probably not a terrible thing to do in your script. So this is the tool I'm talking about right here, and it's specifically how to fade in and out. And how to do that is just this line right here, and the command is assist.fadeout. Make sure that O is capitalized, and then within parentheses we've got a single quotation mark here and here. We've got 3 integers separated by a space, and then a comma, and then another integer. Now these 3 numbers here basically define what color we're fading to, and if you look at the note here, if we put 1s here, it's going to fade to white. If we put 0s here, it's going to fade to black. I'll show you how to get different colors here in a moment. And then the second integer, and make sure that it's separated by a comma space. This second integer right here says how long the fade takes to execute. So this is basically telling that system, turn the camera on, wait 2 seconds, fade to black for 2 seconds, wait 4 seconds, and then this command to fade in right here, sys fade in. Kind of looks like this one, but it's sys.fade in. Make sure the I is capitalized, and then the command to me looks like it's always 0 space 0 space 0 space within single quotation marks, comma, and then 2. So it takes 2 seconds to fade out. And this is really nice to put just before your first person, because it kind of gives this nice smooth transition. Within the game, normally when you get out of cinematics, it sort of pops in, but this is nice. Okay, so I've saved that. Let's go into the map and let's have a quick look to see what that looks like. So should go into our camera view. 2 seconds later, fade to black. Takes 2 seconds to fade, wait 4 seconds, and then fades out. And you can see that nice fade out to third person really is very smooth and nice. So now what if you wanted to get some sort of different color than fade to black? Now these numbers, it's min max of 0 to 1, and I've looked online to see some sort of color charts that correspond to that, but I don't see that. But this is how I sort of work around it. So say we wanted to fade to green for whatever reason. So what I normally do is I put in a light, and then I'll click my J key for my light editor. So let's bring that over here. And then I'll go into color. And then, I don't know, say we want this green here. So select that green, hit OK, apply OK. And then what we want to do is deselect the light and reselect it. And then if we look down here in our entity window, we can see right here, color. And that's the color to get that green. So let me just write those down. So 0.131 and 0.05. So that's how I get those colors. So what we'll do is we're just going to delete that light. Let's reload our map here because it's telling us to save it. This is just because I did the light. So okay, there we are back in our map. So let's go back into our script. And then if we want to go to green, we have to adjust this line here. So numbers we want here is 0.13. Then we want a 1. So the 1.0. Then this third integer we want 0.05. Okay, so this is now going to fade to green. So let's save that script. Let's go back into the map. And now our fade out should be to a green color. Now I'm not sure why you'd want to fade to green, but this is just in case you wanted to, for whatever reason, fade out to a certain color. So, all right, so let's fix our script here real quick back to 0, 0, 0, just so I have it in my standard way. Okay, and we're back to fading black. Okay, so let's save that. Now I'm just going to disregard this code here real quick. Now, the other issue is I got an email from a buddy, and he was saying that he tried that camera move based on that move to command, okay, which is down here. And he said he tried to replicate that, but he could not get the camera to keep focused on the player. So just to show you that it is possible to do, let me just make sure that's all correct. It is. Let me save. Here's how I tackled the issue. Now, true enough, the way I set it up in the first video, you can't get it to focus on the player, but you can with a little bit of tweaking. So here it is. Okay, so we can see that oblique angle, move to, and we can keep the player centered. So let's have another quick look at that. So this is the angle. So you can in fact see that this camera angle, you can follow the player. Now it's a little tricky, but I'll show you how to do it real quick. Okay, so there it is there. Now here's how I did it. And it's a little bit complicated, but does work. Okay, I basically made these movers really tiny, 2 by 2 by 2, and we can see them here. And let me just get them in the orthographic view so we can see them. Now it doesn't matter what size these movers are, but the point is once you start connecting them, it rotates around the origin. So if we have very, very big funk movers, obviously that origin is going to be quite far from the edge. So I drew those movers small, and I've actually got 3 of them here, and we can see them here in the side view. And I've got mover, well, what I've got is my camera here. I've got mover 1 there. Let me go in a bit closer here. There's my mover 1 there. My mover 2 is there, and my mover 3 is there. And they're kind of daisy chained. Now, mover 3, that's this one, is the actual one that goes to the funk static, okay? Mover 1 is actually our pan, and mover 2 is actually our tilt. So I broke down the movements, basically 3 movements into 3 movers. But the real secret here is how you daisy chain them or bind them. So if I select my camera and we go down to our entity window here, we can see that I bound the camera to mover 1. Then I kind of daisy chained it. And then in turn, 1 is bound to mover 2, and then that's all we do. And then and then mover 2 is bound to mover 3 there, and then mover 3 isn't bound to anything. So mover 3 is the one that actually goes to the funk static. Mover 1, which is this one, gives us our pan, and then mover 2 actually gives us our tilt. So each mover has a distinct move. They're all kind of daisy chained together, and that's how you can combine things. And you have to experiment and play around with it a little bit. It took me a little while to get this to work, but if you do have the patience and kind of a little bit of imagination, you can probably script just about any move you want without splines. So now, speaking of splines, I want to show you the move that I built here. So let's get out of here. And let's just hide this. Now I wanted to avoid splines in the first one because they are quite complicated. I'm not going to get into a big discussion about it now, but I'm just going to show you some of the possibilities of a spline. Okay, and what we want is this bit of code. You can see it doesn't take much code to do this move. Okay, so let's get this code activated. There we are. Let's save. So this is what the move looks like. And then I'll show you how I built it. Okay, so here it is, and this is one of these classic sort of dolly around pan to keep the player in the middle of the view. It's quite a spectacular shot. This would be good for, well, a lot of things, but say, for example, if, I don't know, a sentry is fighting an imp or something like that and they're going at it, this would be kind of cool to have an angle like this. Now you can see it's not perfect, okay? Still would have to mess around with it, but it's not bad. Kind of interesting move. And here's how I built it. So here it is here. Now I'm not going to show you guys how to do this. I would refer you back to my spooky hallway, which shows how to do splines, how to get a mover to follow a spline, and then all you would have to do is attach a camera to it. So that's what I've done. So I've taken this entity here, which is a funk camera target, and that's our actual spline. And if we look at our orthographic view in the top view, I just used this edit tool up here, which I showed you how to do before, and I just manipulated these points here to get my circle. And it's not perfect. You have to kind of mess around with it a little bit. You can also start with a patch mesh and a cylinder, kind of use that as a reference. That's how I got the circle, basically. I just followed as a pattern. So that's the spline. And then there's the mover, and all I told, well, in the script it says that the mover follows that spline. And then I just attached the camera to the mover, and you can see here I've bound it to mover 4. This is mover 4 here, and I've bound the camera to that mover. over. So now why it gets tricky is that you'd think to set up this shot, you'd point your camera towards our marine there. But when I did that, it ends up pointing in an odd direction. So I had to adjust for that. So in fact, the camera is actually pointing towards that wall right there, if you can see. So in the orthographic view, the camera is actually pointing this way or pointing north. So I had to make that adjustment. It's a little bit tricky with those angles, and that's really why I didn't want to get into a big discussion on splines. But it goes to show you that with a little bit of imagination, with some splines and the script, we can look at the script real quick. Here it is here. Okay, so there's the camera turning on. I've defined my mover for's move, so it takes 20 seconds, acceleration time, deceleration time, and all we have to do is tell that mover for, this is the command, mover for, start spline, and I've named the spline, obviously spline, and wait 20 seconds, jump back to the camera. So if you want to replicate this move, go ahead. It's kind of a cool dolly move, and that'll cover a little bit on splines. So let's have a look at how to get our characters moving. So let's take a look at getting some characters moving. So the first one we're going to look at is basically, I just want to place, well, let's talk about the characters real quick. If I right click on my orthographic view, there's a bunch of them we could use. And the ones that I'm going to focus on are right here in this char. So it's up here. Not character, but char. And there's a bunch of them there. We see we got Bertruger or Campbell. We got Campbell with his BFG with his briefcase. We got the hazmat, bunch of other ones. I'm going to concentrate on this guy here, character security goggles. I'm going to put him in our map real quick. Now I just want to show you some other characters. All the monsters except the advanced bosses are fair game. The Mancubus we could use, but the Vagary and other ones are a little bit more complicated, so we're going to skip those. But we'll look at the Mancubus in a second. But if you're wondering, you can also have the player there too. So if we go to, let's see, where is that? It's in Mars City, and up here in Cinematic Player, there, right there. So we can actually have the player there too, and he's got a bunch of animations, and that works great too. But all these characters here throughout this list are all fair game, and we can use all of them. Now, not all of them work great, but most of them do. And you can also see down here, we've got the ship as well, so that's kind of cool. And I'll show that in the video 3 as well. So you've got a few of them, and you know, again, in these maps, like if we look at Delta 1, we got a bunch of them here. Com 1, we've got a few of them there. We've got the Sentry, Com 1 Sentry. But the best Sentry to use, I found, is the one char characters down here. That's the one we use in our Sentry videos. So, okay, so getting back to our characters. So we put in this guy here, and that's that char underscore security underscore goggles underscore pistol. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename him just to simplify things. I don't want to have to type out that whole name. So let's call him Bill. And one key value that we want to give these characters right off the hop is Cinematic 1, because it doesn't harm anything if we're in third person mode. Cinematic. But if we try to, you know, have a camera on, they're not going to show up unless we have that cinematic. So I usually put that in right away. Okay, so there he is there. If we just spawn in, we'll see him. Now I'm not going to put any cameras in this portion of the video. We'll do it all through just the player view, the first person view. So we'll just do it that way. Now, if we want him to walk over somewhere, all we have to do, and it's quite simple, is just, I'm just going to select the floor because it gets my path corner roughly where I want it. So we're going to put in a path corner. So right there, and let's just make sure it's not colliding with the floor. And let's kind of put it right in front of the guy over here. And all we have to do to get him to move from where he spawns into that path corner is just connect him. So just to show how simple that is, select the player first, then the path corner, Control K, make sure they're connected. That's it. That's all we need to do. So what happens here with BSP and we go into it, as soon as he spawns in at runtime, he's just going to walk over to that path corner. So there it is. So there he goes. And once he reaches that path corner, he's going to stop, and that's that. So, and you know, that's a basis for a shot right there. If we were to put our camera, say, over here, you know, we could have a shot of this guy walking past. Right? The lighting's not great, but there he goes, walking past us. So just as simple as that to get a character rolling. Now, what if we want him to, say, walk over here, and then say walk over here? So all we have to do is put in another path corner. So let's do that right now. Where are we here? It's alphabetical order, path corner. Where is he? Path corner. Okay, there he is. So let's put that guy over there. I'll put him on a major grid line. And let's make sure it's sitting on the floor. It doesn't have to be on the floor, but I like to put it on there. If you put it way up, way up high, he'll still walk underneath it. So, okay. And then if we want him to walk to path corner 1 and then path corner 2, we have to connect path corner 1 to 2. So let's select 1 and then 2, Control K. And there it is. Now, if we go into the map, he's just going to walk over to 1 and then walk over 2. Now, what we could do, let's say, for example, we want him to walk over to 1 and then run over to 2. Well, we can do that this way. First thing is look into the character first. If we go down to the end of the window, if we click here, we can see all the different animations that this guy has. We could say he's got to walk 1. And I think basically if you don't tell any animations, it just defaults to walk. But we do see he's got a run 1 here, and you got to get the name just right. So run 1. So how do we tell him to run once he reaches path corner 1? That is, we want him to run from 1 to 2. So what we can do, we'll leave the first path corner alone because it basically is defaulting to walk. But what we have to do is in the second path corner, if we click on it, we want to put a key val of anim. And then if you remember, it's run 1 for this guy. Okay, we hit enter. So how this mechanic works, just let me compile this real quick. So once that character reaches path corner 1, it's going to tell it the character to run because it's going to basically read what path corner 2's animation is. Okay, so let's just see how that looks. So if we save and compile, and we go into it, at runtime, he's going to walk over to his path corner 1, and then when he hits path corner 1, he should run to path corner 2. Okay, so there we can mix animations. Now, whenever you have more than one path corner, the character will cycle basically between the first path corner and second path corner. You can see that he's going back and forth there. So, okay, so that's that. Now, let's say we want this guy to wait to move, okay? So we basically got to trigger him to move, all right? We want him to stand still until we tell him to move, basically is what we want. Now, again, these finer controls are good when you start to get into cinematics. When we're just in, first-person view here, it doesn't make much sense. So what we have to do is we have to tell him to wait for a trigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to select him, and we're going to give him a key val of trigger 1. Trigger 1. Okay, and we'll save that. Okay, just make sure it's there. So trigger 1. Okay, done. So let's save and BSP it. Now, because we're not going to trigger him at all first, we'll just see that he's going to stand there. Okay, I just want to make sure you guys see this. Okay. So I've given him trigger 1, and you can see he's not moving, right? Which is exactly what we want. For whatever reason in our cinematic, if we don't want him to move until we tell him to move, this is what we're going to do. Okay, so he's just standing there. So we do have to now go into a script. So I've prepared one. I've saved it as M8, normally just the way I showed you guys. We got a bunch of commands here, but I told the system to disregard them, and I put them outside our Vord main little script here. So all we have to do is we just have to trigger him, because right now he's standing still. So I'm going to borrow this line here, and I'm going to put it into our script, which is there. So all we're doing is we're triggering him. So we gave him a key val of trigger 1. That's wait for trigger, and now we're going to trigger him. Now let's wait a couple of seconds here before we trigger him. So let's put sys.wait, and then our parentheses and semicolon. Let's say 2 seconds. Okay, so there's our script. Now what should happen when we go into our map is he should wait 2 seconds, and then he's going to follow his path. So there he is waiting 2 seconds, and there he follows his path. So that's what you got to do in case you want him to wait for a trigger. Okay, there that is. Now, let's say we want him to say we want to take him off the map for whatever reason. Now, there are scenarios where, say, you're in a room or whatever, and you cut away, and then you cut back, and you want that character to be gone. We can remove him off the map, and it's really just a simple command here in our script. So this is it right here. So let's borrow it. So system's going to wait 2 seconds. Bill's going to start his walk. Let's wait, I don't know, 10 seconds, and then let's remove him off the map. So let me grab that line there. Let's put this in here. Let's put in, say, 10 seconds, and then we're going to put in this remove command right here. if I can select it. C. And we want to put it in between this line here. Okay, so to remove something off of a map, all you have to do is reference it, right? Bill. So what we called our trooper. And then the command is .remove. Okay, just that simple. So this script's saying system wait 2 seconds and then trigger Bill. So he's going to start his walk. And then, oh, we got to put this guy down here. Put that in the wrong place. This is why you want to kind of double check your code. I'm going to go into it and see the error and fix it, but let's catch it. Let's nip it in the bud here. Okay, so system's going to wait 2 seconds and Bill's going to start his walk, and then system's going to wait 10 seconds and it's just going to remove him. Okay, now he's going to just sort of pop off the map, but just to illustrate, I'll show it. Okay, so here's M8. All right, so 2 seconds later, he starts his walk, and then 10 seconds later, he should disappear. So I probably should have shortened that a little bit, but 10 seconds goes pretty quick. Okay, so there he goes running away, and all of a sudden, 10 seconds later, he's gone. So that's how to remove something off a map, so that's kind of handy. Now, let's say that for whatever reason, we want him hidden at runtime. That's handy if, for example, you know, you've got you want a shot of a clear room where this guy actually is standing. You don't want him to be shown there, and you want him hidden. So the shot starts, there's an empty room, you maybe cut away, do something else, cut back, and then you want him to appear there. Simple enough. We just give him a key val of hide 1. So at runtime, he's going to be hidden. So hide 1. There he is there. Now to unhide him, all we have to do is hit him with a trigger. Now if we want to unhide him and then get him to walk, we actually have to do 2 triggers. I'll show that in a second. Okay, so right now Bill is hidden. All right, so system's going to wait 2 seconds and it's going to hit Bill, so it's going to unhide Bill. Now we want Bill to do his walk, so we have to hit another trigger. Now I don't think putting 2 triggers in a row works. It might, but I'm not going to experiment with it now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this wait line here. And I'm going to put it down here. Okay, and I'm just going to give it a very short time, say 0.1. Then we're going to hit Bill again. All right. And we'll put them down here. Okay, so what we're saying here in this script is, at runtime, wait 2 seconds, hit Bill, that's going to unhide him, wait 0.1 seconds, and then hit him again, so he's going to start his walk. Okay? And then the rest of it is wait 10 seconds and then remove him off the map. So there it is. So let's see how that works. Okay, so at runtime, we should not see Bill, then he pops in, then he starts his walk. And he's going to go to path corner 1, then he's going to start his little run, and then roughly pretty soon he should disappear off the map. Okay, there it is. So let's take a look at putting in some monsters now. Just a little quick note about monsters is they're pretty much all fair game except the more advanced bosses. Now those require a little bit more, how shall we say, tender loving care to get them to work, but anything like the Mancubus actually is fine. That's the one we're going to look at, but anything like the Vagary and those more advanced bosses, again, those are a little bit tougher to put into maps, so we're going to skip those. We'll keep it simple, so let's concentrate on our Mancubus. Now before we get into this, let me just tidy up a couple things. Let's get rid of that trooper. And let's just adjust these path corners just a little bit here. And I'm going to move my player start over here. I'll show you why I'm doing this in a second. So, and let's get him facing west. Okay, so there it is there. All right, so let's select our floor just to get sort of kind of some orientation here. And let's go to monster. We're going to come up here to monster underscore demon underscore Mancubus. And let's put that big guy in our map. Let's put him kind of just in front of that first path corner. Okay, his positioning is good. All right, so a couple of key vals to start with Mancubus. Let's change his name to something a bit more simple. I'm just going to call him Man. Now, in terms of naming conventions, you should be a bit more descriptive. Not a big deal when we have a simple map like this with one Mancubus, but if we got like a million entities here, it could be hard to find these guys. Now, there's one other command I haven't showed you guys. If you press I, it brings up a list of actually all the entities on the map. And basically, if we want to find something, you know, here it usually comes up and say we want to find the Mancubus, we would just click on Man. It brings up all his key vals so we can have a quick look at what those key vals are. And if we hit select, we can select him. Again, this is just getting back to naming references. I mean, Man doesn't mean anything, right? So we should be a bit more descriptive, but because our map is so simple, we'll leave it at that. But it's kind of handy, that I key, for bringing up a list of all the entities. But anyways, there it is, a little aside. So let's start with our Mancubus. So we're going to name him Man, which we've done already. What we're going to do before we forget, in case we do decide to put cameras in, let's go Cinematic and put 1. All right, and let's give him one more key val here of, no, wait a minute. Let's give him one more key val here of team 0, just so he's on our same team and he doesn't start attacking us, because we're going to be in third-person view here. Or sorry, first-person view. We're not going to go to camera view. So, okay, so there it is, team 1. So here are the key vals for him. Okay. And I think that's all we need to do for now. Okay, now before we forget, let's connect him to that first path corner. So let's select Mancubus first path corner, Control K. So there we see the path, so he's connected. Okay, now what I want to do is I just want to have a look at our Mancubus. So let's select him, and let's go down here to our entity window. And these are the different animations. Now it's going to default to walk for the first path corner, but I want him to play a kind of an animation here. He's got a funky one called melee_attack right there. So what we want to do is we actually want to click that second path corner. We want to go to this animation and type in melee_attack 1. Now, I was experimenting with this before, so it's already there. So let's just put that in. Okay, there it is there. All right, so what we want the sequence to do is on runtime, we want the Mancubus to walk towards us. Once he hits that first path corner, it's going to default to walk, so he's going to walk. And then once he hits that first one, it goes to go to the second one. It's going to play that attack animation. Okay, so there it is there. So let's save and compile. And let's go into the map. If everything goes right... Oh, he's attacking us. What's going on? Okay, what did we do wrong here? Okay, we obviously did something wrong here. Alright, so did we have team 0? Oh, we did team 1. Okay, so let's go team 0. Doesn't always go according to plan, kids. So we have to double check your work. Okay, so team 0. There we go. Now he's going to not attack us. So I just did prove anyways that if we don't put team 0, he's going to attack us right away. Okay, so there we go. Let's go back into the map. Where's our map? There we go. Okay, so here he comes, walking over to path corner 1. Then when he hits path corner 1, he should play that funky attack animation. And that's kind of cool. I mean, if we wanted to show him kind of pounding the ground to say summon his friends or whatever, he's looping on that path corner 2 as we saw in the first part of this video. So there it is there. That is just so cool. I want to watch that again. Okay, here we go. Let's give him a little bit of light. See, he doesn't attack us because we're on the same team. Now, say our camera angle was over here. You know, we could get like right in front of the guy. Very cool. Okay, so there's one other thing I want to do here. What if we want him to teleport in before he goes to that path corner? So let's select him. And we actually have to add a couple of key vals here. So we can see here up here it says teleport if said monster teleports in. So that's what we want. So let's go teleport. In 1, hit enter. Okay, so just want to make sure it's there. Okay. There's one other thing we have to add if we want him to teleport in before he starts his walk. And this particular key val, let me just refer to it up here. This one here, attack path. Attack_path. And we want to go 1. It's a Boolean, on or off. Okay, so there he is, attack 1. Okay, good. So basically what we're going to do here is we want him to teleport in first. Now we actually have to trigger him because if we're telling him to teleport and he's not going to be on the map, he's going to be hidden. So we kind of have to trigger him a couple times. So now we called him man, so actually we can repurpose some of our code here. Okay, so we're going to wait 2 seconds and we're going to trigger the Mancubus, which means basically he's going to do his animation. Okay, and then the rest of this we don't need. Yeah, we don't need the rest of this. Okay, so let's just delete that. Okay, so just to review, at runtime, the system's going to wait 2 seconds, and then it's going to hit the Mancubus, so he's going to start his teleportation. And because we put that trigger path key val in, we don't have to do anything else. He should actually follow that path once he teleports in. So let's save that script. And now if everything goes right, he should teleport in first, and then he should just do the rest of the sequence as usual. So, okay, so 2 seconds later, there he goes. He teleports in, and he starts his little path. He walks over to path corner 1, and if we had a camera here, we can kind of dolly, and then we could be right in front of him when he does his animations. So, okay, so that's the Mancubus there. So let's take a look at one more monster. I kind of rather like the tick, or sorry, the trite. The tick is the other kind of monster one that squeaks, but the trite. So let's put one of him in there. So monster, trite, there he is. Let's put him down there. I'm gonna put him over here. Okay. And what we want to do is we want to play that funky animation where they drop down on a web. And actually, if we've got him selected and we take a look at his animations, they're here. And they've got different sizes, 196 drop, 256 drop, 400 drop. Now what you have to do obviously is draw your map such that there's a bulkhead or the ceiling coincides with that height, or if it's 400 you can do a little recess up here so he drops kind of out of a hole in the ceiling. But he's going to kind of just appear in midair and drop down, but I just want to do this for illustrative purposes. So let's grab him and let's give him a bunch of key vals here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to just change his name just so we don't have to type all that out. So let's just call it a trite for his name. There he's there. And then we're going to do our cinematic. Now again, in first person shooter mode it doesn't matter, but in case we do decide to cinematic, if we do decide to put a camera in here, if we forget cinematic 1, they're not going to show up once our camera rolls. Then what we want to do is we want to make him our team so he doesn't attack us, so we don't have another Mancubus incident. So team, and we want 0. Okay, let's just expand this to make sure all this stuff is taking. Okay, so we got his name, trite, cinematic 1, team 0. Okay, that's good. Now, what we want to do is add 2 more key vals here, and the first one I want to look at is that trigger anim. So if we come up here, you can see what it does. Trigger anim. Okay, it says monster remains hidden until triggered. Plays animation specified and immediately goes after the player. Well, he's not going to go after us because he's on our same team, but this is what we want here. So we want trigger anim. So let's go here. Trigger underscore anim. Oops. It's got to be exactly right. Now don't forget, I usually zoom in on this in the videos. I'm seeing it on a second monitor. It's quite far, so the print is very small. Okay, so trigger anim, and then we have to actually, let's see here, plays anim specified. So we actually have to put the animation in here. So we want to put in 256 drop. That's the animation we want it to play. And let's hit enter. Let me just double check to make sure I've got that correct. So 256 drop. Okay, there it is, no space or anything like that. Okay, now after he drops down though, we want him to head over to a path corner, so that we have to add 1 more key val here. So let's select him, and what we want is this one called attack path, and let's just find it here. It says when activated either by sight or by a trigger, follow a path of path corners. That's what we want. Okay, so I want to put this one in here as well, otherwise he's just going to drop down. He's just going to stand there like a dummy. So okay, so let's go attack underscore path. Okay, make sure I got that right. Attack underscore path. And that's a Boolean, so we just have to tell true. And a Boolean just means it's either true or false, yes or no. Okay, so there's all that. So just to expand that a little bit so you can see all his key vals. Okay, so Demon Trite, his name is Trite, Cinematic 1, Team 0, so he doesn't attack us. We want to trigger that animation when we trigger him, and we want that 256 drop with the web, and then we want him to follow that path corner. So there it is there. And then we have to go to our map. Let's put in a path corner for him. Path corner. Make sure it's on the floor. Kind of put it right in front of him. Right there. Then let's connect it. Okay, first the trite, then the path corner. So Control K. We see our path. And this is going to default to his walk animation, so that's fine. Okay, and that's all we need to do for our map work. Now we have to trigger him off of our script because we put in those key vals that say he has to be triggered. So if we go to our script, we can just repurpose this. So we can go trite. That's all we need to do. So basically at runtime, system's going to wait 2 seconds. It's going to hit that trite. That trite should descend down from the ceiling. It's not going to quite. He's going to kind of appear out of nowhere. But and one other thing we want to do. Okay, so once we hit him, he's going to come down on his web, and then he's going to go to the path corner. Now, one thing we want to do is we want to place this guy properly, and I didn't do that. So what we want to do is we want to select him. We want to go to that 256 drop animation here real quick. And we want to use the slider to go at the end of the animation. So there it is there. That's the bottom. So we want to position him up here. Okay. So he hits the floor. Otherwise, he's going to spawn in under the floor. We won't even see him. So that's very important to do. So let's move that back again. And let's just bring this back to idle. Now, this doesn't matter, but when he before he spawns in, he's going to be an idle. It doesn't matter. We could have left that. But so animation idle, so that's fine. Okay, so we have him placed properly. Now again, he's going to kind of appear in the middle of the air. What we could do here is either adjust our ceiling to be down here, or we could adjust the ceiling down here and then put like a little hole here, make sure you seal it, and then he can drop out of a hole. But he's just going to kind of reappear in midair here, but that's okay for our purposes. Okay, so let's have a look. So 2 seconds later should trigger. Then the guy comes down on his web, there he is, and then he goes to his path corner. So, okay, so that's another example of putting in a different monster with a couple of animations. This time, instead of controlling the animation with the path corner, we actually triggered. We made it animated through those different key values that we put in. So, man, that guy's ugly. If we want to take a quick look at him, so it's kind of an upside down head, but anyways, kind of ugly. Okay, so there's 2 examples of monsters. Now, we've built a great foundation. What we have here in our first video is we got all our cameras to activate, how to point them, how to move them, and then in this video we showed how to get characters on the map and how to move them and how to get them to do various animations. So we built our foundations. Now we have to just put it together now to build our cinematics. So we're going to do that in the next part, and that'll be a separate video. Stay tuned for part 3 of our special cinematics mini-series, which will be coming up shortly. In part 3, we'll bring everything together from parts 1 and 2 in order to build a simple cinematic. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and in the meantime, make sure your maps are sealed, stay well, and all the best.